Honorable Minister of State in charge of primary and secondary education, welcome to the meeting. Dear participants, welcome all. Of course, we had about 1.5 years ago the important policy dialogue forum of UNESCO's Teacher Task Force in Kigali, where the Minister of Education of Rwanda actually announced that she was setting up this African Center for School Leadership. And UNESCO's Assistant Director General for Education actually also congratulated the Rwanda Minister for Education for taking that initiative. Since then, we have had many engagements with the key partners at the regional level. Many of them are here today, including ADEA, UNESCO IGBA, and also at the country level for Ghana, Kenya, and Rwanda.
Very good morning to everyone. Representatives of partner organizations, distinguished guests from Rwanda and from partner countries, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to thank you all for being here again as we discuss the African Center for School Leadership in this co-creation workshop. Of course, your presence here and your participation confirm our shared commitment to promote effective school leadership for quality education, and we all know that effective school leaders create conditions necessary for effective teaching and learning, and of course, ultimately improving learning achievements.
The African Center for School Leadership is going to be hosted. It's hosted already in Rwanda, and it aims at cooperation with the African governments to build a supportive leadership system with the objective, of course, of improving teaching and in turn learning outcomes.
The projects that we are running at this point are very crucial to achieve the goal of transforming education in our continent. So the main objective of that project that we are running now is really to set the foundation for the establishment of the center, as also mandated by the government of Rwanda to drive that. Our mandate at the beginning was to collaboratively conceptualize, co-create, and support the operationalization of the center. So this is work that has been happening, and it has taken us where we are now.
We are here because of the effort you are making, because of the knowledge that you have built over time. I remember when I was a junior staff in the Ministry of Education, VVOB was already involved in the school leadership. So they have really a tremendous expertise and experience in this regard. So I'd like to thank you for taking what you have done in this country and other countries as well to see how you can build a model that can help countries actually to integrate school leadership in their programs.
One of the things that I've been thinking about is, if the center will focus in its initial kind of phase on implementing these projects, how can the center really start to bring in more local or African implementing organizations to drive that programming? I see some familiar organizations who are working on that initial pipeline of programming. Is it possible to, I don't know if it's including like a quota or something, or some sort of criteria where each of the projects focuses on a certain number of African-based or African-led implementing organizations to really make sure that the center maintains that African character, right? Because I think that's really, really important. Not to have the usual suspects involved in these programs, but actually have African organizations drive them.
You mentioned a few things, right, in the previous slides. I think there is a question of sequencing there, right? Generating new evidence and so on, that takes a bit of time, right? Because you have to pilot something, you have to test it, you have to evaluate it, right? The first one I think is extremely important that you had, right? Which is to try to develop guidelines on school leadership. I actually believe that collectively and with a few others, we already know enough in terms of some of the basics, right?
I think these are very important questions. So, but I think what we also need to be discussing here, hopefully, is to how do we clear that confusion and agree on what type of identity that we want around this. And also, how do we seek the right legitimacy for this initiative at the right levels so that we can have that conversation that we want to have.
So we'll start with a recap of yesterday. Welcome, Jeff.
On the legal status, we looked into a couple of possibilities already. But again, I think the agreement there is that we need to analyze what are the best options, what are the advantages and disadvantages, and that we don't really have to hurry up, that we don't really have to push for that too soon. And the final point I wanted to mention here is that it's important to have government support from the onset of the further development of the center. So that was the deep discussions we have had on governance of the center. We got some information and updates from Albert on the year of education of the African Union for 2024, that is. And we discussed on how to position and profile the role of school leadership within education, and especially how we can raise awareness next year during the year of education on the role of school leadership.
We wanted to have this mapping exercise to make sure that we can be able to have enough information on what is happening in each country, but also like to really identify the area where the center will focus on in terms of the focus needed, because as you know, the 3 countries were already identified because of the interest, but also because this country were already doing a lot of things in school leadership. So it was also one of the things we wanted also to identify best practices to be able to share those knowledge across the continent as well.
If what we do as practitioners is driven by data, we own that that's the best way to go. And we fully support this idea of using data from this mapping to inform our practice and even to inform research. Because these gaps, I believe, will lead to some areas for research for all of us. So for the Ghanaian experience, it was great. It was a reminder that we still need to do better in terms of data management and also to collaborate with other institutions to get reliable data. We depended heavily on the Ghana Education Service, but then sometimes the urgency to provide what one needs, you don't always get that urgency, and we felt a little bit of that in our case. But generally, it was a good experience.
For Kemi, we had time to interact with the document, and I would wish to highlight a few best practices that we have carried on with as a country in matters school leadership. And the most important one for this point is the bit of anchoring our leadership programs in law. All leadership programs are anchored in law. We have the legal frameworks, policies, standards, and guidelines which inform all the school leadership programs in the country.
Some policies, key documents related to school leadership are there. Like standards for effective school leadership were developed, even shared with the school leaders in collaboration with the VVOB.
Since 2 years ago, if I remember, we recruited school leaders where it was structured in teacher statutes, meaning have a written exam and after oral exam. And the best performing school candidates, if I can say, they are placed in different schools. So we are using now online system. The good news is that even for interview, they did the interview via online without facing candidates. We did the written online and also oral online. So it was really good. We have got more than 500 school leaders because we have built more than 500 new schools. That's why we located more than 500 school leaders, new school leaders.
The whole idea is how do we improve teaching and, as we pointed out, subsequently, the learning outcomes using accurate data to inform decision making. So I want to offer this to tell you before I ask anyone else. Let us start from us to see how we can actually work together to make sure we address that need. And this actually applies to other partners that are implementing. So if they have something based on the shared, focus areas and activities, let's also map out other potential partners that are doing this and see how we can raise partnership. As I have seen partnership, the role that partnership is, and the place that you put on partnership is so important. Let's map out to see how much we can do, and then you can see opportunities on this.